there. I'm Emily Morgan, author of the Next Time You See series from NSTA Kids. I'd like to share with you the book Next Time You See the Moon. When my son was little, just learning how to talk, he would reach up at the full moon and say, "A ball, a ball." And we thought it was just the cutest thing. Even at a very young age, he could tell that the moon is a ball. And we all know that the moon is a ball. It's a sphere. But why does the moon look different shapes throughout the month? Well, that's what this book is all about. And I dedicated this book to my dear friend Jenny Davis for sharing the wonders of the sky with me and countless others. The quote I chose for this book is, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks." And that's by John Muir. Next time you see the moon, look carefully for a few minutes. How would you describe its shape? Does it look like a glowing circle, a tiny sliver of light, or something in between? Have you ever recognized a pattern to the moon's changing appearance? The moon's beauty and changing shape have inspired art, music, poetry, and storytelling throughout history. Have you ever wondered why the moon appears to have different shapes at different times of the month? Because of its orbit. The moon's orbit is the path the moon follows as it travels around Earth. The moon's different shapes, or phases, have to do with its particular location in this orbit. The moon makes no light of its own. It reflects the light of the sun. So does Earth and all the other planets, too. Half of the moon is always lit by the sun, but when that lighted side faces away from Earth, we can't see the moon at all. We call that phase new moon. As the moon orbits Earth, a few days later, we can begin to see a tiny sliver of the lighted side, a crescent moon. As the moon continues on its path around Earth, day after day, we see more of the part that reflects sunlight. When we can see half of the lighted side, we call this a first quarter moon. When the moon's place in its orbit allows us to see more than half the lighted side, but not quite the whole thing, that is called a gibbous moon. Several days later, we can see the entire lighted side of the moon, a beautiful full moon. As the moon continues in its orbit, we begin to see less of the side that's reflecting sunlight. We see a gibbous moon again, but this time the light is on the opposite side of the moon. The gibbous moon is followed by the last quarter moon. A few days later, we can expect to see another crescent moon. After that, we are back to new moon, and then the cycle begins again. If you keep track of the moon phases for a while, you will discover that it takes about a month, actually a little more than 29 days, to observe all the moon phases. This is because it takes about a month for the moon to orbit the Earth. So when you look at the moon today, know that you will see that same phase about a month from now. The phases of the moon always occur in the same order. In the days after a new moon, we see more and more of the lighted side. We say the moon is waxing, which means growing. Of course, the moon isn't actually growing. We're just seeing more of the lighted side as the moon orbits Earth. After a full moon, we begin to see less of the lighted side. We say the moon is waning, which means shrinking. We see less and less of the lighted side until we are back to new moon and the cycle begins again. All of these changes happen because the moon is orbiting Earth. And a little rhyme that you can remember to know if the moon is waxing or waning is when you look up at the moon, if the light is on the right, the moon is getting bright. And that works if you live in the northern hemisphere. You look up at the moon and you see there's light on the right-hand side. That means you're going to be seeing more and more of the moon over the coming days until full moon. The moon always orbits in the same direction and takes the same amount of time to circle Earth. so the phases of the moon are regular and predictable. In fact, scientists know what the moon phase will be on any given date, even thousands of years into the future. Isn't that amazing? When you see the moon at night, it's definitely the brightest object in the dark sky, which is probably why we notice it more at night than during the day. But if you look carefully, you can see the moon during the day quite often. Because Earth is turning while the moon is orbiting, moonrise and moonset times are different each day. Sometimes the moon rises at night, and other times it rises during the day. One thing always remains the same. The moon rises in the eastern sky and sets in the western sky just like the sun and stars, because Earth always turns in the same direction. So, the next time you see the moon, remember, that shape you see depends on where our moon is in its orbit around Earth. Half of the moon is always reflecting light from the sun, and we can see different parts of that lighted side as the moon travels around our planet. Isn't that remarkable? Thank you for watching, and I hope that the next time you see the moon, that you'll see it in a whole different way.